Yeah, I wouldn't have thought I would have said it was a feeling of mine. I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have said that. No.
Did I mishear you? Maybe, or did you say that?
No, maybe I did use the word feeling, but
okay.
I
think we're all good here. So first of all, thanks for stopping by and allowing me to interview you about something that you'd like to talk about. You said your name is Gretchen, right? I'm Nate. Nice to meet you.
Mm-hmm. Nice to meet you.
So like I explained a little bit earlier, right? We what I'm hoping to do is that we can work collaboratively to explore something that you believe is true in a way that is friendly. It's not combative. It's not a debate, an argument, a fight, that sort of thing. And so the whole point of the channel that I'm doing and why I'm out here being a crazy person in the park talking to strangers is just to be able to kind of demonstrate that and show people how we can have conversations about potentially sensitive topics in a respectful kind of way. So
okay.
That's the purpose. So if that's cool with you.
I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Awesome. So is there a belief that you have that you would like to explore? About, it could be anything, it could be any sort of topic. It's helpful if it's something that's important to you.
All right, okay.
But it doesn't have to be. It could be something like, the original Batman movie was way better than the ones that came out 5 years ago or whatever, right? Like it could be anything. The point is more how you think and how you develop beliefs than any particular belief. So it's really up to you.
Okay, I think I've got a topic.
Okay, cool.
That's important to me.
Sure, yeah.
I believe there should be more civic education in the public schools.
Okay, more civic education. Cool. And why should we have more civic education?
In my experience, there has been less of it in my lifetime. I do recall learning something of civics when I was in school, but I've continued in the field of education and I haven't seen those courses being offered in the curriculums of the high schools that I'm familiar with.
Gotcha. So are you a teacher? Or
I'm a retired public school teacher.
Okay,
yes.
cool. I'm also a public school teacher, so I teach science.
There you go, a science teacher. Okay, we're on. But I think that, as you were saying about being able to speak to each other without animosity or threats or insults, that perhaps if we as a community, a large community, had more foundation in civics, meaning in how does our American government, how does our state government work? What is our responsibility, if any, to that? What is our individual responsibility? For instance, in high school, I remember learning something about federal and state taxes. And I was so surprised to learn that I would be taxed by the federal government and then also by the state on what I recall then to be the same source of income, which was my paycheck, or my eventual paycheck, because I was in high school. And I remember being surprised, and that the teacher was so very excited to share information about this is how your government works. This is why your government has to tax you. Look around you. You're in a public school. Your eventual tax dollars are going to be funding the schools for all children.
Okay. Okay, so I hear you saying something along the lines of, if we had more civic education, explaining how the government works and people's role within society or the country or the government, etc., then that would lead to what?
Perhaps more engagement in a significant way with aspects of our government, such as voting.
Okay, so if we had more civic education, we'd have more engagement, the general populace, more voting, maybe
more percentage of people actually vote.
More people voting. Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you think that just having more people vote, is that the main goal of having more civic education, or is there more to that than that?
There's probably more.
Okay.
Because if you're going to vote, one would assume that the citizenry would have to learn about the issues and the candidates that they're voting for.
Okay.
In a real meaningful way.
Gotcha. Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying is that if we had more civic education, this would result in higher engagement in civic discourse, political participation, voting, education on voting issues, potentially, and that would be a good thing for the country.
Yes, that we would be all on the same playing field, so to speak, because we would all have that same grounding.
Okay.
As a group, we'd be pretty sure of how the state government works. We'd have a better idea of how districts are created so that we have representation in the federal government, and even locally.
Okay.
We'd have a better idea. We'd all be at the same place.
Yeah. And do you think that if we have a more educated population who's more engaged, that would bring about good things in society? Or that would be of some benefit? And could you maybe lay out what those benefits would be?
Well, I'm going to go so far as to say it was the idea of the original documents that the citizenry would lead, that the citizens would choose. And the very nature of the democracy almost insists that we be educated.
Okay.
We wouldn't need to be educated if we were a theocracy or a monarchy or any or communist or fascist. We might not need the population to be educated, but I think our system insists upon it. That's not the right word. Insists is not the right word.
It demands it.
Demands it, and yet it appears we've dropped the ball.
Gotcha.
In education.
All right, so I'm going to try to kind of summarize that and kind of distill it down to a kind of a topic sentence, and just let me know if I get it wrong. I want to make sure that it's clear kind of what your position is, right?
Okay.
In order for a democracy to function properly in a way that benefits the population, the population needs to be educated in civics and how the government works.
Yes.
Sound accurate?
Sounds right to me.
Awesome, cool. How confident would you say you are that that is true?
Well, I'm not going to say I'm 100% confident. You mean that it's true that a democracy needs an educated public?
Right.
But I think I'm going to say that I am very certain in my own head that is needed.
Okay. Very certain, but maybe not 100%.
Maybe not 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I would never want to keep a citizen from voting if they were blind, for instance, or in some way not able to completely understand.
Oh, okay. So, you wouldn't want there to be like a requirement for people to participate that they demonstrate some sort of knowledge of civics.
Yeah.
But you do think that in order for democracy to function properly, at least maybe at least most people, or it would be better, it would be great if everybody was fully informed,
But
but
we
maybe
know that can't be.
right. But generally speaking, like the more civic education we have, the more knowledgeable people are about how the government works. Hopefully, the better that democracy will function and bring about the goods that we want it to bring about.
Yes.
Cool. All right. And so, what do you think your main reason is for thinking that this is true, that we need to have people be educated in how their government works in order for democracy to function?
My main reason for thinking that is that the people are granted the choice. It's a government for the people and by the people.
Okay, so it does kind of come back to, you said this kind of earlier, right? The original intent when the country was founded and when this political system was instituted was that people have the choice and it's for the people, by the people, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that supports the idea that we need people to be educated. What are the problems when people don't understand how their government works? Why would an uneducated population result in a less functional democracy?
This is actually something that my friends and I discussed earlier today.
Yeah?
So, and I know they're listening so that they'll hear this. That, would you rephrase that? Would you restate that question?
Yeah.
What are some of the factors that it wouldn't work?
Yeah, why would, you are very confident that in order for a democratic government to function properly, we need to have an educated population who understands civics. Why would, I assume then that you would believe that if you have a less educated population in regards to civics, that the democracy wouldn't function as well, right? Is that a position you would hold then? It's kind of the inverse of that, right?
I guess I would go there, yes.
Yeah, so then the question is, what problems arise in a democracy when civic education is lower?
Well, if there was a case where civic education was being taught with aspects that were false regarding the work of the government, if a civics instructor was not explaining how the House chamber works with the Senate chamber, for instance, or in any given state, if there was education that was leaving out how a citizen's initiative could be put on a ballot, for instance, if there were holes in what was being taught to the children, that's one way.
And that would lead to, what would be the problems that we would see in society?
Well, then, that there could be folks that became angry or upset by something that was going on that they didn't understand.
Okay.
We see that. We see that when people are certain that they need to vote a certain way, and yet they haven't read the bill that they're voting on. They haven't really read it. Or we see that when reasoning is superseded by emotion.
Okay. So you think that the less civic education people have, the more likely they are to reason emotionally in regards to government than try to be more rational, potentially?
Right. Yes. We see folks that might say, let's just throw them all out, not realizing the nuances or the differences between the roles of various lawmakers.
Okay.
Let's throw the governor out because he hasn't done X, when they don't realize the governor does not have that power.
Gotcha.
That sort of thing.
And so when people don't understand how the government works, then potentially they would take actions that won't actually help them accomplish their goals or something like that? Is that they wouldn't, if they don't understand how government works, then they wouldn't necessarily
They could
maybe
take,
do the things that actually are going to benefit them?
yeah,
or
they could take actions that would in the end cause them harm rather than help them.
All right. So I'm hearing kind of quite a few different kind of reasons for why you hold this position, right? I need to refresh myself. Sorry, I'm going to refresh myself, and then this is an opportunity for you to correct me if I'm misunderstanding you, okay? I want to make sure.
Are you filmed too? Are you?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I'm on here. Because I want to make sure. Part of my goal in having these conversations is, like I said, first, to keep things cordial and polite. Mm-hmm. Second, it's for me to understand you. That's my second goal. And my third goal is just to help both of us kind of reflect on what you're thinking and why. Mm-hmm. So, big part of that is making sure that I'm understanding. Okay. So, we need more civic education in order for the democracy to function properly, right? And part of the reason why I believe that is that if people don't have good civic education, then they will, number one, engage in politics on like an emotional level rather than like a rational level. Does that sound correct? Number two, they might take inappropriate actions that won't actually bring about the outcome that they want, because they won't know how if they don't know how the government works, then they don't know who's responsible for certain things, for example, right? And then are there any other reasons?
They might do nothing.
Okay, so we could have people just completely disengaged from politics then as well. Okay.
No. And we see that. We already know that by the percentages of people.
Okay. We know that people who are less knowledgeable of civics,
we just know after an election, it's usually published how many of the registered voters really did vote.
Okay. And you think that number would be higher if we had better civic education?
I think so.
Okay. Is this something that we could look into? Is there some way we could know if that's true?
We never can know if it's. I mean, we have to assume that the numbers that are reported are accurate.
Yeah. I mean the connection between more civic education and more political engagement. Like, is there a way to know if that's actually true or not?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
So we're not sure if might be a way to test that.
Well, I suppose a researcher could do a study, but that would be I don't know.
Yeah, could we compare different countries, maybe different democracies, and maybe compare and contrast what kind of civic education system they have versus their political engagement? Would that be a way to know if this is true?
I suppose a researcher could go at that about it in that way, but that part I don't know. I've never thought about that.
Okay. Yeah, because you say you're very certain, right, that this is true, that the more civic education we have, the better the democracy functions, and part of that you're identifying as, right, engagement. Okay.
I don't have any empirical evidence, and of course I haven't, and I never would be able to research that with my passion, let's say. I have no passion to do that, that research.
Is it possible for somebody maybe to do research and then really investigate this claim?
I would guess so. I mean, you've seen those research topics. People are researching everything.
Yeah. If you were to maybe read an article or a research paper that showed that, we looked at these different countries and we don't see a correlation between the amount of civic education the population receives and maybe these other things you've talked about, with, for example, voting rate or voting participation. Would that make you less confident, you think, in the claim? Sorry, that was a long question.
No, I heard you.
Oh, okay.
And it would be something that would pique my curiosity, but I don't know that it would change my experience, that it would change how I felt about what I've seen.
Okay.
As far as what goes on in the schools.
You mentioned experience and feeling. Are those a significant portion of why you're very certain that we need more civic education for the government to function properly?
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought I would have said it was a feeling of mine. I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have said that. No.
Did I mishear you? Maybe, or did you say
no,
that? No,
maybe I did use the word feeling, but I would say it was from my actual experience.
Okay.
For instance.
So maybe it's an intuition you're drawing from experiences?
Maybe so.
Okay.
Maybe so.
Go ahead with your for instance.
I ran into a young woman recently who was really gung-ho about running for office.
Okay.
And I thought great, and I encouraged her. It was just an acquaintance. And we had just had an election, and she asked a question about it that made me realize she did not know anything about that recent election. And so it gave me pause. I thought, now here's an energetic young person, just the kind of person that should go for whatever she wants to do. And yet, an important event had just happened, and she didn't know it. So that experience made me say that. And I am done with this interview. Well, because it's been 10 minutes.
No, definitely. So
I thought I would just tell you that.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I get where you were going. The idea of feeling or knowing. I have no time. You can still film this.
Okay.
I'm sure that sometime today my car is going to go over a bridge. And I have trust that bridge is going to hold my car up out of the river. But I don't know anything about the construction of that bridge. It's a feeling that bridge is going to hold me.
Okay.
And there are so many things in our life where we just have to trust that bridge is going to hold. So, hey,
so far I've never driven across a bridge and it fell and it collapsed beneath me. So I think we can have those sorts of feelings. We can infer it maybe on past experiences, right? Well, Gretchen, thank you so much for talking to me about this.
This was interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it's all about. But
well, here, let me explain a little bit more here. I've got a card. Where you can check out my channel.
Oh, okay.
If anybody else wants one, I've got more. So what it's all about is something called street epistemology. And the idea is, epistemology is basically a fancy word for the study of knowledge and how we know the things we know and why we believe the things we believe.
And you're a scientist, too.
Yeah, so so it's all about exploring, like I said, it's not necessarily about the particular claim, it's about how we develop the beliefs and the thoughts that we have, and kind of turning inward and reflecting on that, and really thinking about that. So hopefully you experienced that a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Well,
Gretchen.
this was. I might want to do one. Do you want to do one? Okay.
You want one?
You've got it. You've got another. Yes. Good. Okay.
All right, cool.